am currently 26 years old. These events occurred when I was 16 years old, so it's been a solid 10 years, and I feel I am at the point where I can go through these memories without having a panic attack. I really wanted to put this story out there to see if anyone else had similar stories and raise awareness of how dangerous it can be if you're an idiot like me. I have read quite a few stories similar to this, and I consider myself so lucky to be here today. Now I'll get to why you're all reading this. I'll start this story off with some context. I was an insecure 16-year-old boy in high school at the time. It was sophomore year, and I had always had trouble finding friend groups that I fit in. I moved to that school district during middle school. It was a smaller town and was pretty well off, so everyone knew each other, and I always found myself trying to make friends. I was not unpopular, but I never truly felt like I fit in. I had friends and some close ones, but I always felt like the odd man out, always chosen last or left out on the plans. Anyway, due to this, I always felt like a loser and just wanted to be cool. This drove me into sort of the skater pothead crowd. Up until my sophomore year, I had not drank alcohol or done any sort of mind-altering substance, only nicotine. One of my buddies at the time, we will call him WB, finally convinced me to smoke weed one night after I had been totally against anything like that for years. I liked the idea of being clean and never having tried anything. Can't say the same for myself today, but that's besides the point. WB and some other buddies used the ultimate godlike power, peer pressure, and got me to smoke. Long story short, I loved it. It made me feel so happy and masked the underlying depression and insecurity I had been living with my whole life. I also thought it made me cool, made me fit in. That is what sparked my obsession with not being in a sober mind. I wanted to escape 24/7 because I realized how good it felt to not worry about your problems. From that day, every chance I got, I was getting high. I spent all my money on weed, did anything I could to get my hands on it. Eventually, like every stoner, I devolved a tolerance. I wanted something more. I liked the psychedelic side to weed, and I had heard about one of my other buddies, we will call him SW, doing LSD with some of his friends from another school. He had always spoken so highly of it and how he had these profound experiences. I bought weed from and smoked with SW a lot. He supplied my friend group and was a really kind-hearted friend who was accepting everyone. SW was not the most popular kid. He hung out with a lot of college kids and people from other schools whom he would get high or fucked up on whatever with. One day out of the blue, I texted SW while working at my part-time shift at the local Noble Romans that all my buddies also worked at. I asked him if he was still into doing acid, and he responded with, "Me and my buddy are actually popping a tab tonight, and we have an extra if you want in." At first, I don't know how to react. I knew I wanted to try it, but not that very night. I convinced myself it was now or never and told him I was down. I was very nervous the remainder of the shift and had no idea what to expect. I headed over to SW's place after work. He and his friend from another school were there and ready to trip. I hadn't met this other dude yet, but he ended up being super nice and apparently was more experienced than SW with psychs. We will call his friend BH. They gave me my tab and we had a wonderful experience that night. It was the perfect introductory to LSD. I took one tab and we watched Alice in Wonderland. The visuals were subtle, but the vibes were amazing and I was laughing the whole time. I felt so much love. This night is what ignited my love for acid. From that night on, I proceeded to trip with SW a handful more times. Sometimes it was just him and I, sometimes BH was there, all being great experiences. SW was always so positive. He basically led our trips and would always put on an awesome show or music. He was always great vibes. He always would lead deep conversations that were actually interesting to talk about. He always made sure everyone was having a great time. He was much more experienced than me, as he had done shrooms and DMT and claimed to have never had a bad experience. We even watched movies like Enter the Void together, and while some moments were a bit challenging, especially off of 4 tabs, it was never bad or scary. That all changed one night. We had been tripping far too frequently, like once or twice a week. We all started to get a tolerance and wanted to basically have an ego death, which none of us had yet experienced. SW got a sheet from a new supplier, one that we hadn't tried yet. This supplier claimed each tabs was triple the potency of a normal one, and to be careful. At that point, we had all done it at least 10 times, so of course we were cocky little fucks. We wanted something more, and claimed we could handle it. Damn, we were wrong. We bought our tabs and headed back to SW's house, our regular tripping zone, because his dad didn't fuck with us, to have what we thought was going to be the night of our lives. This particular time it was me, SW, and BH. We all took 3 tabs each. The most I had done was 4, but I remember that dude telling us these were 3 times as strong. We always tested using a UV light. Not sure how reliable that is, but we never tested them using a real test kit, so who knows how pure it truly was up until then. We never had a problem. My memory from this night is completely fucked. I vividly remember moments, vibes, feelings, thoughts, and certain sequences, but I cannot confidently retell this story in full accuracy because of the pure fear and adrenaline running through my body, so forgive me if there are gaps. So the night starts off great for the most part. I noticed this time it was kicking in quite a bit quicker than normal and quite harder than normal. I felt a huge build-up forming. I knew I was in for a ride, but I felt like I was prepared and knew what I signed up for. Wrongo again. About an hour and a half in, it starts hitting really hard and we all get the bright idea to slide out the basement window to smoke some weed and stare at the stars. First red flag was happening at this point. SW was not being his normal self this time. We had just tripped together less than a week prior, and he was a completely different person as I described before. This time, he was off the rails only an hour in, saying random things that weren't making sense, hysterically laughing at himself, talking to the wall. None of this seemed negative in the moment. BH, and I thought he was just super high and having a great time and being silly. So we all smoke out of my bowl. We packed it at least 3 or 4 times. After the last bowl, SW quickly handed me the bowl and rushed back inside to the basement. This was odd for him to do, as he always wants to finish the bowl and never really taps out from smoking, even while tripping. At this point, it's hitting super hard. In the back of my mind, I felt like smoking that much while tripping that hard was about to be a huge mistake, but ignored it and tried to stay positive. BH and I looked at each other in confusion, and then went inside to check on SW. When we got inside, SW was nowhere to be found. We had a rule that we stay in the basement while tripping to not wake his dad, who was asleep upstairs. Obviously, SW had gone upstairs. This caused us to worry heavily, but nothing felt bad yet. It just felt intense. We heard rumbling upstairs, and eventually SW comes sprinting down with a huge smile on his face. We asked him what he was doing, and he responded with something along the lines of, "Why does it matter? I don't remember. I'm just having fun." I can't remember exactly, but he wasn't making sense. I could feel tension rising. SW, BH, and I were all standing in sort of a circle at the bottom of his basement stairs. Here is where things started to get freaky. SW tried to go back upstairs. We told him to stay down here with us. We were trying to tell SW that he might wake his father if he goes upstairs and makes a bunch of noise, and we don't want that because we are on a substance and we could get caught. This is where I come to full realization that SW has completely lost himself. I guess the way BH and I were saying you don't want to wake up your dad really hit something in him. He started getting super defensive and saying, "You guys are trying to say my dad doesn't love me. You think I don't make him proud?" This turned into pure anger, specifically towards me. I realized he was getting extremely worked up, and I could feel how hard we were all tripping at this point. Out of nowhere we hear, "SW, what the hell are you guys doing down there?" This scared the ever-living fuck out of us. It was his dad. SW had woken him up. We all froze and stared at each other. No one said a word or moved a muscle. In that moment, it truly felt like time froze and I got pulled into a different dimension as I was staring at both friends. I felt as if I was in this cartoonish hell, and SW was glaring at me like I'd just killed his dog or some shit. In that single moment, I felt the weirdest and most unnerving feeling I've ever felt in my life. I still can't get over it and describe exactly how it felt, but it was like a demon had taken over all of us and just toxically started vibrating my reality. We all felt it. I know we did. We were completely lost in the trip at this point. As soon as I felt that feeling, I looked over at BH, who literally looked like Goofy from Mickey Mouse because I was tripping so hard, and he started shaking his no. When he did that, it was as if he was telepathically saying to me he didn't want to be in that realm. It felt like we all had just entered a realm, dimension, place, whatever you want to call it, and we were not supposed to be there. Everything in this place was negative, evil, and demonic. When he shook his head, I took that as a signal to change the setting, or things were about to get way worse. Well, they were. We all simultaneously broke that silence and weird moment and headed to couch to put on a movie. No one had said anything at this point, but we all knew we were in a bad trip and knew we were putting on a movie to try and change things. We all sat down and I threw on Finding Dory to try and help the mood. It felt as if I was going in and out of reality at the moment. I remember I didn't end up hitting play, so BH and I were staring at the start screen for like 20 minutes just watching the animated coral. We thought it was the movie. I can't fully remember the visuals, but they were intense, enough to have me convinced I had already started the movie. More than anything, the vibe and the feelings I had were out of this world. I was so scared and just trying to keep it together. I was starting to forget everything, but somehow my ego was holding on by a sliver. BH had fully let himself go and was just closing his eyes, smiling. In this 20 minutes, I felt I was unable to move from the couch. No one was taking, but I could hear SW moving around like crazy and talking to himself. I tried to ignore it. BH was in the middle of the couch, and I was on one side, SW on the other. I could feel that I found myself putting space between SW and I, but I didn't know why. SW proceeds to jump up and start screaming at BH and I. He was looking at me the whole time though. I distinctly remember his face. It was so demonic looking. His eyes were completely black saucers, and he had a negative aura around his whole body. With every word he yelled at us, I felt energy shooting off of him, and it was like damaging my soul. Like in a video game when you get hit with a laser or some shit and the controller vibrates. Like that, but in a rapey, possession type of way. I was absolutely scared shitless at this point. SW started pacing and then screaming at the wall. I cannot for the life of me remember what he was saying or what BH was doing in all of this, but I just sat there not saying a word. I remember SW going in and out of being crazy aggressive and then saying things that don't make sense. And I even think I heard him say he was gay a few times, and he asked me if he was gay. It was fucking wild. So we are peaking at this point. Visuals are all scary and negative, and my heart is racing harder than I've ever felt in my life. I knew my life was in danger. SW stopped screaming and was standing in the corner just glaring at me. I knew exactly what he was thinking. He wanted to kill me. He wanted to stab me. I calmly let out, "I have to use the restroom." And as soon as I said that, I went flying up the stairs. SW started chasing after me, and I managed to make it up the stairs and flew out the front door. It was winter time, and there was snow on the ground. I had no shoes, no socks. I was in shorts and a t-shirt, and somehow when I was running through the snow trying to get away, I was sweating my ass off and felt like I was going to die from being too hot. I ran about 600 meters up the street and dove in a bush. I peeped through to see my friend walking aimlessly looking for me at 3 a.m. in his residential neighborhood with a giant butcher knife. This was extremely disturbing to watch and felt like I was in a horror movie. He looked like a possessed man. I started randomly dry heaving while laying the bush. Nothing came out, but I was gagging uncontrollably hard, and with every dry heave it felt like my brain was getting damaged. Super weird. I did manage to bring my phone with me and talked one of my buddies who lived close by to come pick me up from the bush I was in. He picked me up and I immediately felt sobered up, and the biggest relief of my life. I felt like I had been saved. Then he told me that he couldn't bring me back to his house because he didn't want to get caught with me. He said my eyes were too telling that I was tripping, even though I would have just went to sleep, but I understood, and he agreed to drive me around until morning time. I told him everything, and he didn't know what to think. Made me feel a bit crazy, and I felt alone. I knew I had to go back to SW to get my keys, wallet, and whatever else I had left. My car was still there. I was so terrified to go back. He was a demon trying to kill me at this point. How could I face him? I mustered up the courage when it started to get light out and made my way in. How his dad never came downstairs and woke up, I have no clue. I went straight to the basement to grab my things. There I found BH completely cashed out on the couch. SW nowhere to be found. I get my keys and head to my car and get TF out of there. I go home and sleep for a couple hours, still very shaken up by the experience and didn't know how to process it. I get a text around 2 or 3 the next day from SW. He said, "I'm sorry, I wouldn't have done it. Come over." I immediately call him and asked WTF happened. He said he finally came out of the trip and he wants me to come over so he can apologize. The acid had worn off at this point, but I still felt some after effects, maybe PTSD. I was so scared to see him. Me, SW, and BH all met up at Taco Bell to discuss what happened. When I first saw SW, it felt very weird and almost sent me back to him trying to kill me. He was extremely apologetic and claims he was possessed, and they were telling him to kill me and he didn't know why. He said he was having bad visions and felt like I needed to die in that moment. He was very vague about it, and I still felt some off tension between us. BH claims he was in bliss and was laughing the whole time, but I don't believe him one bit and feel as though he is lying to himself about what really happened that night. I accepted his apology and we all tried to move on. I wanted to stay away from LSD for a bit. I continued to smoke weed and had no issues. I tried to forget about the experience, but the story went around school. SW started to get a bad reputation and I felt bad. I started sticking up for him when people would say he is crazy, and I told them he just took way too much and it was an accident. He kind of got bullied for it a little, so a month goes by. I hadn't hung out with SW since that incident. I was curious if I was still able to trip without it going south, or if I could never trip again. So I wanted to try one more time. SW texted me out of the blue and said he tripped since then, and it went great. He told me they had a few tabs, and he wanted all of us to take one each to try and heal that past experience and help us all get over it. This was such a dumb idea. I head over that night to take my tab with them. I was very hesitant, and in the back of my mind, Kay knew it was not the right move. But stupid me wanted to be able to trip and have fun and go back to how I had used to be before the incident. So we pop our tabs around 11 at night. This time we are at BH's house. He is a heavy pothead, smokes before he does anything. We were already smoking heavy before even dosing. We are all sitting around his poker table passing a bowl, and I kid you not, within 15 minutes of dosing, SW is glaring at me from across at the table with the exact same look he gave me that night he tried to stab me. I knew right there what I was in for, and anxiety immediately set in. BH gave me a look, and it was a look that was trying to help me. He telepathically told me, "Let's get the fuck out of here before he loses his mind again." I gave him a nod and we both jolted up and headed upstairs to his car. Once again, SW started chasing us, specifically me. He was shouting shit about clowns and how he needed to stab me. He looked so demented. We made it to his car and dipped and left SW at BH's house. His parents worked night shift and they were not arriving till morning, so we knew we had a bit of time. I feel bad for leaving him there alone, but I knew he was going to try and stab me. This trip was not as intense as the first time, but the feelings and vibes were identical, just lacking the visuals. It sent me right back to that first trip. We spent the whole night driving around. I know, dumb as fuck, while tripping and trying to hold it together. I was fighting off a bad trip the entire rest of the night, and BH was not even acknowledging what was really going on. He was pretending everything was fine and we were just having a normal time. I feel as if he knew if he acknowledged that we were struggling, then it would have made it real for him. We get back to BH's house to find SW in a sleepy psychotic trance. His eyes still appeared to be blacked out and he was muttering to himself, going through 20 different emotions. He would randomly smile and it would freak me the fuck out. I was ready to get out of there. I rode to BH's house with SW, so I knew I was going to have to find a ride home. Eventually BH's dad gets home and I have to hold my shit together in front of him. He was staring at all of us suspiciously, and the fucking tension was awful. SW was just muttering wild shit, and his dad just knew we were all fucked up, but he ignored it and went to bed. BH and I play some video games to try and sober up. SW comes running downstairs and I'm thinking he's about to have another episode. He screams that was the most fun I've had in my life. I'm so confused. Bro just tried to kill me for the second time, and he's claiming he had a great time. I still felt this weird bad vibe tension between us. I could feel that he was lying and was embarrassed. I could also feel that he wasn't fully back yet and things could go wrong at any moment. He was desperately claimed he never tried to kill us and he had the most blissful experience of his life. BH looked at each other like he was crazy and just agreed with him so he wouldn't flip his shit again. He asked if I was ready to go home. I told him my GF at the time was coming to pick me up because she missed me. That was a lie, I just didn't want to ride with him because I literally knew he couldn't help himself but try and kill me. That made him super confused and I could tell his feelings were really hurt that I didn't want to ride with him. I could tell he didn't believe me. Eventually, my girlfriend at the time picks me up and I bawl my eyes out and tell her everything. She thought I was fucking crazy and a weirdo. From that day on, I have not spoken to SW in any way. No text, no call. We did go to the same school, so I would occasionally see him in the hall. When I would see him, I would go straight into flashbacks and start panicking. We made eye contact until the gymnasium one time during a pep rally, and I saw that same negative aura radiating off of me, and he was glaring at me. He then tried to snap himself out of it and started tweaking a little and excessively smiling. I haven't seen him since. He deleted all socials, and to this day I have no clue where he's at.